地獄を割譲する。貴様も道連れだ。羽ばたきを聞け。マラクアルアウト。
I have been dreading making this video for a very long time now because of the topic that we're going to be discussing in this video is something that is quite controversial in Fate. Now, you already know what I'm going to talk about, so we don't have to dilly-dally around, but just know I'm not someone who enjoys power scaling personally. I think that it can take the fun out of the series, but there is a death battle happening in the future in which Nero from Fate is going up against Kamen Rider Gietz. Now, my condolences to the team that has to research both these series. I have to admit that I don't know much about Kamen Rider. I know I'm a filthy casual in Japanese media and culture, but I am planning to get into it. However, I do know about Fate relatively quite well, which is why I also know that the fandom is divided into two when it comes to power scaling in Fate. And technically, it's actually 4 categories. These categories are: Category A, people who think that Fate/Type Moon is not above country level or at max solar system level. Category B, people who think that Fate is at least universal, with characters going up to multiversal and the root being boundless, or at the very least outerversal. Category C, people who hate both these guys because they power scale. And Category D, people who don't give a fuck regardless because they are here to enjoy the story. I think Death Battle will most likely go with the multiversal category. I mean, there is proof of Fate being multiversal. It is just not as easy to be achieved or shown because of how Fate works. There is also an argument on the side of Category A, but it kind of falls apart due to the planets themselves being special, and some people in Category A deny this fact. Either way, I don't think that Nero is winning this. There is a chance depending on how much plot juice they are willing to give Nero, because Nero is the one Fate character that is an hour's pull of a character. And have you seen the shit she does in Extra, and especially Extella, with the whole becoming Saber Venus thing? I don't care how they try to justify that, it is an ass pull that no other character can pull. Imperial Privilege might give her a win, but the chances are low to mid. And I still cannot believe that this chick somehow beat Gawain because reasons. Anyways, I'm gonna probably piss off some Nero fans with this one, but you cannot tell me that it is not an ass pull, guys. No, it's moving on. Regardless, I kind of wanted to talk about a bit about power scaling before the death battle. So if you hadn't already noticed, power scaling Fate is different than power scaling something like Dragon Ball, DC, Marvel, or even Bleach, where you just read the materials and can't fear your own world. Fun fact, by the way, Can't Fear Your Own World is written by Naruto sensei, who also wrote Durara and Fate/Strange Fate. In Fate, it's not as easy. So usually power scaling, if you already know what power scaling is a process in which we take a character, their skills, their powers, durability, speed, and other stuff. We analyze them. After that, we assign them a class or tier, which shows that these characters are capable of blank. For example, tier 1A means a character is outerversal. In other words, they can affect the multiverse, and their powers can go even beyond that, and have the powers to destroy it even altogether. For example, Beyonder from Marvel, Godzilla, which I didn't know was that busted. I mean, we all thought it was just the radiated gecko/lizard, but no, it turns out it's a herald of destruction. Or tier 0, which means boundless, aka the character can do whatever they want. A perfect example would be God. God is boundless. These are the top most tiers. However, there are lower tiers like 6A, 6C, etc. that are ranging from a wall all the way to a continent, to a planet, to a star, to a galaxy, to a universe, etc. etc. Now this here is an issue in of itself. While I have seen people make the argument that brute force in Nasuverse works, I don't think that it is the case. That is because Nasuverse, instead of going for a my power/skills are greater than yours, thus I beat you because I'm stronger than you shtick, went with the concepts and compatibilities or shtick. For example, if you're a person with an attack that cannot be blocked by human inventions, well then it doesn't matter what kind of shield or magecraft the human uses to defend against it, the attack will always pass through it and kill the human if the shield or magecraft was made by the human. However, if the human uses a shield with the concept of absolute defense, well then it becomes a concept versus concept thing. At that point, we'll have to see which concept is higher than the other. If the absolute defense shield was made by a fairy, say, then that concept will hold true and the attack will be stopped regardless of the fact that a human is using the shield to block it. The thing is in the fine lining. It's supposed to be human invention. However, if the shield itself is a human invention that gives absolute defense, the attack will still pierce through it, because even if it gives absolute defense, it is still made by a human, so it is useless against this attack. A more example of this is Amaterasu, the divine spirit or the highest deity in Japanese mythos, and the White Titan. Amaterasu was defeated by the White Titan, a being from outside of our universe, despite the fact that Amaterasu had more raw power at her disposal. So she was stronger than her in raw power, and she also had much more things under her belt, being the chief deity of Japanese mythos, like the sun, etc., etc. She could make stuff and all that kind of thing that the chief deities have. However, she still lost because concept versus concept thing happened. The White Titan had a concept that basically anything regarding human civilization is not going to work on them, and gods get their power from human civilizations. So Amaterasu became completely like a sitting fox. You get the point. The fight is so hopeless, or was so hopeless, that Tamamo, aka Amaterasu, but she has one or two tails depending on which version you're talking about and how many you're talking about her, has PTSD in a simulation where she flat out says that they can't beat the Titan, they cannot beat Safar. It is that hopeless, and this is a simulation in a supercomputer. You have to understand, this is not a real life situation, this is a simulation. This is what makes Fate different. Raw power or brute force doesn't always matter. Sometimes the answer is simpler, but other times that is not the norm. Now, Category B makes three main arguments as to why Fate is as busted as they make it out to be. Number one is the world, number two are the heroic spirits, and number three are servants. Now, when it comes to the world of Fate, I've already made the cosmology of Fate video. If you want to know how the universe works, how the world and the planets work in Fate, you have to go watch that video. But for the sake of reiterating what I said in those videos, the planets in Fate are capable of storing the entire observable universe inside of themselves. Not only that, the planets in Fate can dictate different timelines in of itself. For example, our Earth has a system in place called the counterforce. This system is also called the will of the planet. There are two types of wills. Alaya, the will of humanity to live and not get extinct, and Gaia, the will of the planet to live and not go boom. Now, Alaya and Gaia together make the counterforce. The counterforce can cull timelines in which either the humanity is dead or the planet is going to die or has been dead. They can literally just cut those timelines off. These timelines never happen. This process takes place every 100 years or so. Watch the other video. I'm not going to go into too much detail. Okay? Shameless plug. I have to do it. Either way, not only that, the counterforce can also nerf or stop people's powers in their tracks. So the counterforce, the reason why servants cannot destroy, say, continents or things with their power, even if they have that much power, is because the counterforce is in play. As I said before, like Gaia makes it so that you cannot destroy the planet. So as long as you're born on Earth, it doesn't matter if you have a noble phantasm or an attack that can destroy the planet. As long as you're from Earth, you cannot destroy Earth. That is flat out the case. You cannot just do it. Now you might be like, okay, so someone from Earth cannot destroy Earth, but what about aliens? Well, remember when I talked about the White Titan that came from outside of our universe? Yeah, that thing came on Earth and tried to destroy everything. It was stopped by Excalibur. So the planet has its answer for outside threats as well. It's just fuck you with reasons and stuff, okay? I've already told you that the counterforce can manage timelines, and Alaya can also send in like heroic spirits or heroes that can take care of threats, and Gaia sends its beasts to take care of threats, and these things go crazy and crazy. stuff happens, and yeah, basically just know that the Earth is not easy to destroy in Fate, because as we saw with ORT needed some time to destroy the Earth. Now granted, we were moving at tachyon speed, we still managed to defeat this weakened version of ORT because it needed set time. Like, we were moving very, very fast. Still, it doesn't change the fact that even someone who can destroy the planet still needs time to destroy that planet. You cannot just pop up and immediately destroy the planet in and of itself. The second reason that these people give, the category B people give, are the heroic spirits. The heroic spirits are basically records of heroes, or their souls, kept in the Throne of Heroes. The Throne of Heroes is like a register that exists outside of space and time that records these heroes and their legends. Now these are beings that are basically higher than humanity. They cannot interact with us directly, so even if you get a heroic spirit, they're mostly useless. To make these heroic spirits work, you actually have to provide them with a vessel or a container so that they can interact with our world. This is where servants come in. Servants are containers that host these heroic spirits inside of them. Now, a container can only host so much. So, you get where I'm going with this, right? If you keep on pouring water in a cup, the cup is only going to hold as much water as the cup's capacity. For example, if it's 250 ml, it is going to hold 250 ml. It's not like you can forcefully make it hold 500 ml of water inside of it. That's not going to happen. Similarly, servants can only hold some aspects of a servant inside of a container, not the entirety of the heroic spirit. Now, servants work by essentially summoning a copy of a heroic spirit from the throne. Then this copy is then downloaded into the container or recorded into the container, and then the container functions and the heroic spirit can interact with the world. However, the container in of itself, as I said before, is inert because the container does not give everything that the character has to the person. For example, Hercules can have different types of noble phantasm depending on which version of Hercules you have summoned. So there you go. These three categories are the reason why some people think that these characters are much more stronger, because the planets in Fate are like they function like at such a higher level. Because of that, these category B people say that the Earth can function as a universe in of itself. So these characters are not just, if these characters are not restricted, they can destroy this planet, and if they can destroy this planet, that is equal to them destroying the universe, yada 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 yada. Power scaling things, I'm not a fan, you're not a fan, so I'm not going to go too much into it. But they can make an argument, I can understand the argument, I respect the argument. Now let's go talk about the category A people. Category A people say that Fate is a universe that at max goes up to solar system level, because ORT is a threat that at max goes up to like that level. It takes time to destroy planets, it's not as strong as people make it out to be. The planets are still a planet, yada 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 yada. And they also make the argument that these characters, if they cannot go beyond these like restraints and restrictions, then this is the max that these characters can possibly put out. And they also say that there is no like proof that these characters can go far beyond that. Like I said before, category B does make some good arguments that these things can happen, but you know, you get the point. Sometimes there are people in category A that says that, okay, fine, we accept that Fate can go this high, but only inside of the moon cell, because the moon cell is a simulation where the counterforce does not exist. The moon cell has its own version of the counterforce. However, the moon cell is not as restrictive as the counterforce, so characters like Gilgamesh can actually, in fact, destroy universes in that shit, and they can also fight beings that can do similar things and stuff like that. You get the point. But yeah, both sides can make decent arguments. And honestly, I have to say that I'm usually on the side of category B, because the category B people do make more sense. Sometimes, however, I am in category C, because I don't give two fucks, and I hate both sides, because it is how it is. But yeah, there you go. Fate is not that easy to power scale, simply because of the fact that how it works, the planets, the freaking servants, the heroic spirits. Because these heroic spirits, like these people, when they were alive, they were much more stronger than they are now, like as servants. So Artoria, when she was alive, she had Rongominiad, she had Excalibur, she had Avalon. Rongominiad can literally destroy textures, which are realities. Gilgamesh, when he was alive, had like absolute authority over the Mesopotamian texture through Ea. Basically, he can pull out Ea and just destroy the reality using Annihilation, which will separate heaven, hell, and earth. And people think that that started Earth's entire like cycle. That is not true. Earth was not created like that. Earth already existed. Earth just gave the Mesopotamian mythos their own texture. So Anima Elish did happen, but it was only specific to the Mesopotamian myth. The Greeks were given their own texture, so the Greeks' creation myth is like specific to them. Either way, now I hope you understand that I'm not someone who like power scaling or anything like that. I was just presenting you guys the 2 points and my personal view as to what I think the death battle will be going with, especially considering that they will be the moon cell will be playing a major role in this. So clearly they are going to be using the moon cell, so the whole multiverse thing can work in there. That being said and done, I still don't think that Nero has a very big chance of winning against CS, but who knows, maybe they'll just plot juice Nero up and give her Saber Venus and whatnot so she can come out on top. We don't know. We really don't know. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and just know that it's a stupid funny video, and if you guys have watched it this far, I really appreciate you guys watching it. If you liked what you saw, give me a like, share this video with your friends, and get them in Type Moon, or just like the more voices we have in Type Moon that can actually show things regarding Type Moon, the better, I think. So yeah, so subscribe, and with that being said, adios.